Welcome back to the Basketball Show. Paul Sir, Ryan Reed, joining you on this Saturday morning, and I am pleased to be joined with one of the key members of the Canada Basketball Women's Olympic 3x3 team, Kacie Bosch. Kacie, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Paul.
Oh, it is great. I'm so excited that you were able to find time in your schedule. Now, I do have to ask the question, are you up in Edmonton?
No, I was just up yesterday for the Stingers and Plouffe Hoops camp, but I drove home last night.
Okay. How was the camp?
It was awesome. It's so cool to go to different communities in Alberta to see how basketball is growing, and it was really awesome, too, to see the influence that Michelle and Catherine have on the young girls in that basketball scene in Edmonton. It was really awesome.
Oh, and it's great to have you be a part of it. So I thank you for making the somewhat long trek up here to be a part of it and also be an influence on girls. But you cannot measure what mentoring from people like Michelle, Catherine, and yourself mean to these young women, and the inspiration you provide by what you're doing and what you've done with your careers, but also helping them understand what it takes to not just be a better basketball player, but also be a better teammate. Would you say that's a fair summary?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so cool because it feels only like 5, maybe 10 years ago. Obviously, it's way longer that I was in their shoes, all those little girls at camp.
Not much. You're
but
still really young.
It is really cool. It's cool to see basketball from their point of view again.
So, Kacie, let's talk about your career. You played your high school basketball in Lethbridge, correct?
Yes.
And then journeyed down to Gonzaga. Talk about the experience you had at Gonzaga and what your reasoning was of why you decided to come and play the balance of your career at the University of Lethbridge.
Yeah, so I initially wasn't even 100% sure if I wanted to play basketball coming out of high school. I felt a little bit burnt out just playing summers, provincial team and stuff, and wasn't sure if basketball was going to be the road for me. I had gotten a scholarship offer for volleyball, actually, to Gonzaga before I had been offered a basketball scholarship.
My goodness,
so
that's impressive. That's very
I was
cool.
trying to decide what I was going to do, and I wasn't sure, and then I went down the basketball road, which I'm really glad I did. But yeah, I was a young kid when I left. I was 17. I had a late birthday, so I was just a little tiny tyke going down and living on my own for the first time. And I think for me, I find a lot of happiness with balance. I love to be able to pour things into different cups, and being 17, living away from home for the first time and playing for a top 25 Division I institution, I wasn't able to find that balance for myself. I felt like it was basketball, 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 and nothing else. And for me and for my personality, like I need to be able to see my family and my friends and a lot of other reasoning too, but it just wasn't the place where I was going to be happiest mentally, emotionally, physically even. And so I spent my freshman and my sophomore year there, and then decided to transfer back to the University of Lethbridge to be closer to home, to have a little bit better basketball rest of life balance.
Well, it's interesting that you frame it that way, Kacie, because oftentimes becoming a good enough player to receive a Division I offer from the U.S. is perceived as the be-all, end-all. It's the top of the mountain. It's what everybody strives for and dreams of. But the reality of it is exactly as you describe. I mean, there's a tremendous price and high expectations that when you're part of a Division I program, and Gonzaga is not exceptional in that way, it's your life. You're there, fitting. It's not that they don't want you to be great student athletes. They want you to do that, but you've got to fit the student part in around the athlete part, not vice versa, correct?
Exactly, yeah.
So now you're back in Lethbridge. You finish out your career, and you mentioned, and thank goodness you decided to go with basketball, not volleyball. And I always say the most depressing place in the world to go to for a basketball coach is a volleyball practice. When you see all these tall, athletic men and women playing this other game that can jump out of the gym, it is just, and Alberta has such great volleyball. Not making light of it at all. The volleyball here is just incredible, world class in all respects. So you decide you play in Lethbridge, you play for Coach Dave Wacknuck, and talk about what then happened that drew you into the world of 3x3.
You know, it's funny because when the Plouffe sisters and Paige, because they are the pioneers of the women's side of 3x3 in Canada, and no doubt about it, when they were starting their journey, Catherine had reached out to me over Facebook Messenger and had asked if I was available to play. And this was summer of 2019, so it was their first ever summer doing 3x3. But I was just going into my 5th year for university, and I was working my weed whipping job in between semesters of school. And so I had messaged her back and said, I can't do it right now. Like, I'm really focused on my university season up and coming. I had never really heard of 3x3 before either, and I just told her I really want to focus on my university team, but if there's any chance or any opportunity in the future, I would love to see what it's all about, and that was kind of it. So flash forward a couple years, 2021, I believe it was, Paige had reached out to me and asked if I could go to a tournament in Montreal to compete with the national team. And at that point in time, again, I had graduated 2020. It was COVID. Things were a little bit weird. Everything was a little uneasy. I was supposed to be moving to New Zealand. I had booked my flights, everything like that. And then I told her, like, I was unable to do it because for those reasons. And then my flights got canceled to New Zealand. I never ended up moving there. And then 2 months later, in November, I got asked again if I'd be able to go to the America Cup in Miami, the inaugural 3x3 America Cup, where I met you as well.
Yes, that's right.
And so that one I was available to go to because I was not in a different country. I was still in Canada, and I said, yeah, sure, let's do it. And that's kind of how I got my foot in the door and just kept coming back to tournaments and kind of got in the fold that way. So really everything was stacked against it, and turns out it's exactly what needed to happen.
Everything was stacked against it, and somehow you found a way, and what a way it's been. And I'm talking with Kacie Bosch, a member of the Canada Basketball 3x3 National and Olympic team, here on the Basketball Show on Sports 1440. So, Kacie, let's talk about 2024, the Olympics. Talk about the experience of qualifying, because you guys made it real interesting to get there, and then you got there and you got to the Olympics. Talk about the journey of 2024.
Yeah, 2024 was a grinder of a year. We started our qualifying journey with a women's series tournament in the States. We were, it was beginning of April, mid-April, so we had a tournament there, and then we flew to Japan after that for our first Olympic qualifying tournament, where we ended up making it to the final of that tournament. Only one team got to go out of that first OQT that we went to, and Australia beat us down to the wire. So Australia qualified for that tournament, but luckily we had another opportunity. We went to Hungary the next, I think it was like 2 weeks or something like that. 2 weeks later, we went to Hungary for our second OQT. The top 3 teams of that tournament were going to qualify for the Paris Olympics. And so we knew going in that there obviously were better odds now that it was top 3. So we made it to the semifinal, and we were playing a Spanish team that we have seen a million different times. They're super talented. Again, goes down to the wire. One of the Spanish girls got a rebound through a shot backwards over her head with no time left on the clock. They hit the bucket. They won the game. And so they got that automatic bid into the Paris Olympics. But because it was a semifinal, we got to go to the absolute last game to qualify for the Olympics. Only one team left that could get in there, and we were playing the host team, Hungary, in Hungary.
Yeah, you guys made it tough. And by the way, no one in their wildest dreams. There are always those shots that you just never imagined could happen, that you can't make them up. And that the last shot that the Spanish lady made was certainly one of those shots. So sorry for interrupting. Please continue.
Yeah. So after that shot, you're in a bit of shock, because it's like, okay, well, we were just right there. They made this crazy shot. They get to go, okay, let's refocus. Let's play this Hungarian team. We have to win this. If we lose, we don't get to go. If we win, we're into the Olympics. This is do or die. So we went in. We ended up winning pretty easily, because we just went in and played with joy and had fun with each other and tried to take all the pressure off. So we qualified as the very last team to get in.
My goodness. So now on to Paris, and it's a very different tournament. Michelle, Catherine, and Paige have been on the program before. They've shared with our listeners that it's very different to play mostly one game a day, but over a period of a week is completely different than a 2-day event that you always play in 3x3 tournaments. So now you get to the semis. So take us through the semis and finals, as painful I know as this is.
Yeah. Well, we were going into the tournament, and we knew that we were a strong team. We were expecting ourselves to get on the podium. I think a lot of people who know 3x3 had that expectation of us as well. So when we went into the semifinal, we were playing the German national team, who had one girl that we hadn't really ever played before. They kind of threw her in a couple weeks before they announced their rosters. And so it was a German team that was a little bit different than we had normally played, but again, some of the same pieces that you see on the women's series all the time. And that one came down to the wire too. Last second shot, it goes in. Germany gets to go to the gold medal game. And again, we are playing for third place, but this one felt like there was a little bit more pressure than the OQT where we had played the Hungarian team, because we were seeing a U.S. basketball team, which they're always so tough, they're always so talented, they're always so well coached, and they put a lot of time into their scouts, things like that. So we had a little bit of time again to regroup and to watch some film back to see what we needed to do, adjustments we needed to make. And unfortunately, the last 2 minutes of a 3x3 game can really make or break a team. And those are the last 2 minutes of a 3x3 game, the second game of a day. It's just so tough mentally, physically to keep going and to play at the highest possible level. And it just wasn't our game, and the U.S. took the bronze medal. To be, as you're describing it again, I'm reliving the heartbreak that I felt for you and your teammates, because knowing all of you as the outstanding people that you are, and the outstanding players that you are, and the work and time and effort you put into it, Kacie, but you represented your team, your province, your country, just with such class, as you all always do. And now I've only got about 30 seconds, but tell us about the upcoming tournament that you and your teammates will be playing in. It's coming up very soon. Yeah, we get to go to Thailand for the first ever 3x3 Champions Cup, where all of the cup winners from around the world, Euro Cup, Afro Cup, Asia Cup, America Cup, and then the top, and the Olympic winners, Germany will be there, as well as the top two federations. We're all going to compete in an 8-team tournament to see who the top dog really is.
That's exciting. Well, best of luck with that, Kacie. And we'll try to talk. I'm going to try to get the whole team on as the season unfolds, because we're going to be building up, of course, to our big event at West Edmonton Mall, July 31st to August 3rd, in our Hoop City FIBA 3x3 Classic. And so I'll look forward to talking to you before then. But best of luck in Thailand. Safe travels. And thanks so much for spending time with us today, Kacie.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Paul. Can't wait to see you.
Likewise. Kacie Bosch, one of the great people I talk about this a lot, but there's so many great people that you encounter in the sport of basketball. And this team of women they're just packed with character, packed with talent, just packed with personality. And Kacie certainly adds so much of all of those things and so much more to this team. We're going to take a break right now. When we come back, it's time to talk madness. We're going to bring in Kevin Lehman from the Missouri Valley Conference, expert on NCAA men's basketball down in the States as we get ready for the most wonderful time of the year here on Sports 1440.